Tools of Titans by Timothy Ferriss. Picture this, a 19-year-old kid standing on a winner's podium after his first major bodybuilding competition. Everyone around him looks shocked to be there, maybe a little terrified. But this kid, he's got this look on his face like he's been expecting this moment his entire life. Years down the road, someone shows him that old photograph and asks the obvious question, "How were you so confident?" Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't miss a beat. "My confidence came from my vision," he says. "I'm a big believer that if you have a very clear vision of where you want to go, then the rest of it is much easier." But here's where it gets interesting. Arnold immediately follows up with something that might surprise you. "I am not a self-made man. I got a lot of help. Every achievement, from pumping iron to Hollywood stardom to the governor's mansion, was built on a foundation of parents, coaches, mentors, and heroes he looked up to. As he puts it, he stood on the shoulders of giants." Now imagine this. What if you could climb up on those same shoulders? What if you could peek into the playbooks of not just Arnold, but hundreds of other extraordinary people? The billionaires, the icons, the world-class performers who seem to live by a different set of rules. That's exactly what Tools of Titans by Timothy Ferriss offers you. This isn't your typical self-help book collecting dust on a shelf. Tim Ferriss, dubbed by Fast Company as one of the most innovative business people and the mastermind behind the 4-hour workweek, has essentially turned himself into a human laboratory. This self-described compulsive note-taker has interviewed nearly 200 of the world's most successful people through his podcast, The Tim Ferriss Show. We're talking Navy SEAL commanders, chess prodigies, legendary investors, Hollywood royalty, you name it. But here's the thing, he didn't just chat with them. He dissected how they think. He collected their best strategies. He actually tested their routines in his own messy, complicated life. Tools of Titans is the result. A playbook he created for himself that he never actually planned to share with the world. By the time we're done today, you won't just know what's in this book. You'll have a completely new lens for looking at success. You'll see that the people you admire aren't superhuman. They're regular folks who've just figured out a few key habits and mindsets. And you'll walk away with some of their most powerful strategies, tools you can literally start using today to build your own version of an exceptional life. Ready? Let's figure out how to stand on the shoulders of giants. The journey into the minds of these titans doesn't start with some complicated theory. It starts with simple curiosity, the kind a kid might have. Tim Ferriss wasn't sitting around thinking, "I should write a book." He was just trying to solve his own problems. He felt scattered, overwhelmed, and desperate for better answers. So he started asking questions. But not just anyone would do. He tracked down the outliers, the mavericks, the people on the edges, who, as Kurt Vonnegut once said, see all kinds of things you can't see from the center. What he discovered was revelatory. These world-class performers weren't born special. They built themselves. They created their own rules, routines, and habits that let them bend reality to their will. And here's the beautiful secret. What they learned to do, you can learn too. The book breaks down into 3 sections: healthy, wealthy, and wise. But don't think of them as separate buckets. Think of them as 3 legs of a stool. If one's missing, the whole thing crashes. You can't have real, lasting success or happiness without all 3. A titan isn't just rich, or just fit, or just wise. A titan seeks balance across the board. So let's kick things off, where every great journey begins, with the foundation everything else is built on. Let's start with healthy. You could have all the money and wisdom in the universe, but if your body's broken down, you've got nothing. The titans get this instinctively. They don't just see their bodies as vehicles. They see them as high-performance engines that need careful tuning and maintenance. One theme that keeps popping up is using your body as a training ground for resilience. It's not just about being strong. It's about being anti-fragile, able to not just withstand pressure, but actually thrive under it. Take Wim Hof, nicknamed the Iceman. This guy climbed past the death zone on Mount Everest, wearing nothing but shorts and shoes. He ran a full marathon in the Arctic Circle in temperatures well below zero, again in just shorts. He holds the world record for the longest ice bath at nearly 2 hours. You're probably thinking, okay, this dude's a genetic anomaly. What can I possibly learn from him? But Wim swears that anyone can learn what he does. His tools are surprisingly simple, a specific breathing technique and cold exposure. His belief? Our comfortable modern lives have made us soft. We live in perfectly climate-controlled bubbles, and our bodies have forgotten how to adapt. As he puts it, all the problems I have in the daily world subside when I do cold exposure. It is a great cleaning, purifying force. You don't need to summit Everest in your underwear to benefit from this. Many titans in the book, including music producer Rick Rubin and philosopher-investor Naval Ravikant, have adopted a dead simple practice, ending their daily shower with 30 to 60 seconds of pure cold water. Sounds almost too easy, right? But it does something profound. It trains your nervous system to handle stress. It boosts your immune function, and it gives you an incredible mood lift. It's a small dose of voluntary discomfort that prepares you for the involuntary discomforts life throws your way. Another titan who embodies resilience is Amelia Boone, often called the Michael Jordan of obstacle course racing. This woman covered 90 miles and nearly 300 obstacles in a 24-hour race called the World's Toughest Mudder. She finished second overall, beating 80% of the men. Her motto? I'm not the strongest, I'm not the fastest, but I'm really good at suffering. Her secret isn't just physical toughness, it's how she frames things mentally. She loves training runs in pouring rain and freezing cold. Why? Because she knows her competition is probably sitting on the couch waiting for better weather. Every time she chooses to embrace the misery, she gains a mental edge. It's like rehearsing for worst-case scenarios. This idea of building resilience extends right down to the basics of movement. Most of us think exercise means lifting weights or pounding the treadmill. But Christopher Sommer, a former U.S. national team gymnastics coach, will change how you think about this. Coach Sommer tells a great story about his first seminar with a group of advanced weightlifters. They failed warm-up. These incredibly strong guys couldn't do the most basic plyometric drills without their knees, ankles, and backs giving out. They were powerful, but fragile. His system, gymnastic strength training, isn't about doing flips on a pommel horse. It's about reclaiming the mobility and foundational strength we all had as kids but lost through years of sitting in chairs. He draws a crucial distinction between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility can be passive, like someone else pushing your leg up high. Mobility is active. It's strength through your entire range of motion. For Coach Sommer, the path to becoming a stud later is to be a PUD now. You have to be willing to work on your weaknesses, the stuff you're most embarrassed by. Maybe it's tight hips or stiff shoulders. By patiently working on these gaps with simple, consistent exercises, you don't just get more flexible, you bulletproof your body against injury. This foundation of health isn't just physical. It's deeply connected to the mind. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, a research scientist working on aging, cancer, and nutrition, talks about something called hyperthermic conditioning, which is basically using a sauna. She points to studies showing regular sauna sessions can dramatically boost endurance and growth hormone levels. Growth hormone isn't just for building muscle, it's crucial for repair and recovery. another tool for making your body more resilient. But what fuels this machine? The book explores various dietary strategies, but one of the most intriguing is the ketogenic diet, championed by Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. Keto is a high-fat diet that forces your body and brain to run on a different fuel, ketones derived from fat, instead of glucose from carbs. Why does this matter? Because it has profound effects. For one, it's incredibly efficient fuel. Dom found he could hold his breath twice as long in deep ketosis. Tim Ferriss himself held his breath for a staggering 4 minutes and 45 seconds after some coaching from Wim Hof. But Dom's most fascinating application is fasting. He talks about doing therapeutic purge fasts for 5 to 7 days a few times a year. The theory is this process can help clear out precancerous cells. Cancer cells thrive on glucose, and when you starve them of that fuel through fasting, you make them vulnerable. It's like cutting off the enemy's supply line. And it's not just about cancer prevention. After a 7-day fast, Dom went to the gym and deadlifted 500 pounds for 10 reps. Fasting doesn't have to weaken you. It can actually make you stronger, both mentally and physically. What all these titans share is a proactive, experimental approach to health. They don't just accept their genetic hand. They're constantly tinkering, testing, pushing boundaries, building bodies that aren't just fit for today but ready for tomorrow's challenges. This resilient physical foundation is the first leg of the stool. It gives them the energy and platform to build the second leg, wealth. Now, when Tim Ferriss talks about being wealthy, he's not just talking about bank accounts. He means an abundance of time, relationships, and freedom. Money is simply one tool to get there. The titans in this section are masters of leverage. They know how to get extraordinary results from ordinary inputs. One powerful theme is playing offense versus defense with your life. Chris Sacca, an early investor in Twitter, Uber, and Instagram, tells a story that nails this. Early in his career, before making his fortune, he was living in Silicon Valley, trapped in an endless cycle of coffee meetings and social obligations. He felt like he was constantly reacting, playing defense. His inbox, he says, was basically a to-do list that anyone in the world could add tasks to. So what did he do? He bought a small cabin in the mountains near Lake Tahoe. At the time, it seemed financially crazy, but he saw it as an investment in going on offense. By removing himself from the city's noise, he could be proactive. He could choose who he spent time with. Instead of dozens of shallow coffee meetings, he'd invite a few specific, brilliant founders to spend a weekend with him in the mountains. Those deep, meaningful relationships built in the quiet of his jam pad became the foundation for some of the most successful investments in history. He traded the frantic pace of defense for the focused power of offense. This idea of creating your own rules and game is a hallmark of so many titans. Take Arnold again. When he first hit Hollywood, agents and producers told him he had zero chance. His accent was too thick. His body was too big. His name was impossible to pronounce. They said the stars of the day were smaller, more relatable guys like Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino. But Arnold had a vision. He asked himself, how can I carve out a niche that only I have? He refused to audition for regular parts. He knew he wasn't a, quote, regular-looking guy. Instead of seeing his differences as weaknesses, he saw them as his greatest assets. He waited for the right opportunity, and when Conan the Barbarian came along, the very things everyone told him were obstacles became his unique strengths. Later, when he starred in The Terminator, director James Cameron said if they hadn't had Schwarzenegger, they couldn't have made the movie, because only he sounded like a machine. He didn't try to beat everyone at their game. He created a new game where he was the only player. Marketing gurus Al Ries and Jack Trout call this the law of the category. The book puts it perfectly. If you can't be first in a category, set up a new category you can be first in. Everyone's interested in what's new. Few people care about what's marginally better. When you create a new category, you have no competition. Tim did this himself by coining lifestyle design in the 4-hour workweek. He didn't just write about remote work. He created an entirely new way of thinking about life and work, and for a while, he was the only one in that space. But how do you find these new categories? How do you generate breakthrough ideas? James Altucher, a hedge fund manager and author who's made and lost fortunes multiple times, has a simple but powerful practice. Every single morning, he writes down 10 ideas. Doesn't matter if they're good or terrible. The point is exercising the quote, 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 quote. He says people who struggle with good ideas don't have enough bad ideas. The secret is giving yourself permission to come up with awful ideas. Can't come up with 10 ideas? James has a magic trick. If you can't come up with 10 ideas, come up with 20. You're putting too much pressure on yourself. By forcing your brain to generate bad ideas, you shut off the internal critic, that voice of perfectionism that paralyzes you. And somewhere in that pile of garbage, a few gems will inevitably appear. This isn't just about business. You can make lists of books to write, things to invent, or even people you want to befriend. The practice isn't about any single list. It's about building the habit of creativity on demand. But ideas are just the start. The Titans are masters of execution. One counterintuitive strategy comes from Scott Adams, creator of the Dilbert comic strip. He distinguishes between goals and systems. He says, losers have goals. Winners have systems. A goal is a specific one-time objective, like losing 20 pounds or running a marathon. It's pass or fail. You either achieve it or you don't. A system, on the other hand, is a process you engage in regularly that increases your odds of long-term success. Scott gives the example of his blog. He didn't have a specific goal for it, like hitting a certain number of readers or making specific money. His system was simple: practice writing in public regularly. He was moving from being an out-of-practice writer with low odds to being a well-practiced writer with high visibility and good odds. That system eventually led to guest articles in the Wall Street Journal, which led to a book deal, which led to lucrative speaking gigs. He didn't know the exact path, but he trusted the system. This is a powerful reframe. Instead of betting everything on a single fragile goal, you focus on building robust systems of skills and relationships that will serve you no matter what. It's like building assets you can carry for life. And perhaps the most important asset is your time. Derek Sivers, founder of CD Baby, offers a simple but life-changing filter for protecting it. He calls it the hell yeah or no rule. When deciding whether to commit to something, if you feel anything less than, wow, that would be amazing, absolutely, hell yeah, then your answer should be no. Why? Because most of us say yes to too many things. We let mediocre opportunities and obligations fill our lives. We feel scattered and overcommitted. But when you say no to most things, you leave room to throw yourself completely into that rare thing that makes you shout, hell yeah! To become successful, you often have to say yes to a lot early on, just to see what sticks. But once you have momentum, your default has to flip to no. Lack of opportunity is rarely the problem for successful people. It's drowning in kinda cool commitments that sinks the ship. This ability to say no is a cornerstone of wealth in its truest sense. It's the freedom to direct your own life, to to build your own game, and to focus on the very few things that truly matter. But all the health and wealth in the world mean nothing if you don't have the wisdom to enjoy them, which brings us to the third and final leg of the stool, whys. The wisdom section is about the operating system that runs everything else. It's about how you navigate the world, deal with adversity, find meaning, and cultivate peace of mind. It's where the Titans reveal their most profound and often most personal philosophies. One consistent pattern among more than 80% of the people in this book: a daily mindfulness or meditation practice. This isn't coincidence. From Arnold to music producer Rick Rubin, these top performers understand the mind is a tool, and like any tool, it needs sharpening and maintenance. Meditation isn't about emptying your mind or stopping thoughts. That's impossible. As Tara Brach, a clinical psychology PhD and leading meditation teacher, explains, it's about cultivating present-state awareness that helps you be non-reactive. Think of it this way. Most of our waking hours, our minds are like washing machines on spin cycle. We're being tumbled around by thoughts, worries about the future, regrets about the past, endless internal chatter. Meditation lets you step out of the washing machine and calmly look inside. You're no longer the clothes being thrown around. You're the observer watching the process. This witness perspective is a superpower. It lets you respond to situations thoughtfully, rather than reacting emotionally. Tim says the reward for 20 minutes of meditation is getting 30 to 50% more done in a day, with 50% less stress. Why? Because you've practiced focusing when it doesn't matter so you can focus better later when it does. There are many ways to practice this. The book offers options from apps like Headspace and Calm to guided meditations from teachers like Tara Brach and Sam Harris to practices like transcendental meditation. But one of the simplest and most powerful exercises comes from Chade-Meng Tan, a former Google pioneer. He calls it the joy of loving kindness. It's a simple 10-second mental exercise. You identify two people in the room or in your mind and think, I wish for this person to be happy and I wish for that person to be happy. That's it. What's so powerful about this? For one, it almost instantly improves your own mood. Being on the giving end of a kind thought is inherently rewarding. But more deeply, it takes the focus entirely off you. So much anxiety and suffering comes from being trapped in our own heads, obsessing over our own problems. This simple exercise breaks that cycle. It's a mental reset that shifts you from self-focus to other focus, and in that shift, you often find profound peace. But wisdom isn't just about finding peace, it's about confronting pain. Jocko Willink, a retired Navy SEAL commander and one of the most formidable humans imaginable, has a simple one-word mantra for any setback, failure, or disaster: good. Mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get the new gear we wanted? Good. We can keep it simple. Got injured? Good. Needed a break from training. Got beat? Good. We learned. This isn't blind optimism. It's not pretending bad things aren't bad. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. It's about accepting reality and immediately looking for the opportunity within the obstacle. Every setback, every failure contains a lesson and a seed of growth. By saying good, you're not celebrating the problem. You're welcoming the chance to get stronger, smarter, and better. It's the ultimate expression of what Jocko calls extreme ownership, taking full responsibility for your world and turning every situation to your advantage. This ability to reframe reality is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained. One powerful tool is what Tim calls fear setting, the practice that let him escape a business that was killing him and take the 18-month trip that led to the 4-hour workweek. Most people avoid thinking about their fears. We let vague, undefined anxieties paralyze us. Fear setting does the opposite. It forces you to define your fears in excruciating detail. The process has 3 steps. First, ask, what are the absolute worst things that could happen if I did what I'm considering? Write them all down. Would it be the end of your life? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would the permanent impact be? Second, ask, what steps could I take to repair the damage or get things back on track? You'll often find even the worst-case scenario isn't permanent. You could get another job, move back with your parents temporarily, bartend to pay rent. The disaster is almost always survivable and reversible. Third, and most important, what is the cost of inaction? What will my life look like in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years if I don't do this? You must measure the atrocious cost of standing still. When you go through this process, something magical happens. The vague, terrifying monster in the closet is revealed to be a harmless scarecrow. You realize you're risking a temporary, repairable dip for a probable, permanent, life-changing upside. It's a tool for seeing that inaction is often the greatest risk of all. This brings us to one of the deepest sources of wisdom in the book: perspective. B.J. Miller is a palliative care physician working at the Zen Hospice Project in San Francisco. His job is helping people die with dignity and grace. Through his work with nearly 1,000 deaths, he's learned how we can live. He says that at life's end, you can let a lot of the rules that govern our daily lives fly out the window, because you realize we're walking around in systems in society, and much of what consumes most of our days is not some natural order. We're all navigating some superstructure that we humans created. So much of what we worry about, what we strive for, simply falls away when faced with the ultimate deadline. What remains? The senses, the simple joys. He tells a stunning story from his own life. As a college student, he was electrocuted in an accident and lost 3 limbs. He woke up in a burn unit in excruciating pain, completely cut off from the world. One day, a nurse smuggled in a snowball for him. He remembers the feeling of that cold snow on his burnt, inflamed skin, watching it melt into water. It was, he said, the most therapeutic moment I could imagine. Why? Because it reconnected him to the world. It reminded him he was a feeling machine. It was a simple, sensory experience that was beautiful for its own sake, on behalf of nothing. His advice for living is to prize these little moments: the smell of a cookie baking, the beauty of the night sky. He says when you are struggling with just about anything, look up. Ponder the ancient light of the stars hitting your eye. It has a way of putting our neurotic anxieties in their proper place. This is the wisdom of the Titans. It's understanding that a well-lived life isn't a grand, abstract project. It's a collection of well-lived moments. It's about building a resilient body, creating the freedom to direct your own path, and cultivating the perspective to find joy in the journey. It's about remembering that, as Naval Ravikant says, desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. The trick is to want what you already have. It's about understanding you don't have to be a superhero. You just have to show up, do the work, and be willing to learn from those who came before. You have to be willing to stand on the shoulders of giants. As we wrap up our journey through Tools of Titans, it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed. There are so many tools, so many tactics, so many different paths to success. But if there's one message that runs through every page of this book, it's this: greatness is not a lottery ticket. It's not something you're born with. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. What Tim Ferriss has done is demystify success. He's pulled back the curtain on the world's top performers and shown us they're not gods. They're people. They're neurotic, flawed. They procrastinate. They have fears and doubts, just like us. The difference is, they've found systems and habits to manage their weaknesses and amplify their strengths. They've learned to ask better questions. They've learned to be the architects of their own lives rather than just passengers. This book is a powerful reminder that you're more in control than you think. You don't have to accept your life's default settings. You can experiment. You can do the opposite. You can choose to play offense instead of defense. You can define your fears instead of letting them define you. The world will often tell you that you need to be more, have more, do more. But the wisdom of the Titans often points the opposite direction. It's not about adding more to your life. It's about subtracting what's holding you back. It's about creating empty space for creativity to flourish. It's about saying no to things that don't make you say, hell yeah. So what can you do with all this today? How can you start applying these lessons right now? I'd suggest starting with 3 simple things. First, pick one question from this book and live with it for a day. Maybe it's Jocko's good. Next time something goes wrong, just pause and say good, then look for the opportunity. Or maybe it's Tim's question. What would this look like if it were easy? If you're feeling overwhelmed by a task, ask yourself that. You might be surprised by the simple solution you've been overlooking. Second, start one tiny, almost laughably small habit. Maybe it's making your bed every morning as a way to start with a small win. Maybe it's Chade Tan's practice of taking one mindful breath a day. Or maybe it's doing just one push-up before bed, like Matt Mullenweg. The goal isn't the habit itself. It's the consistency. It's about proving to yourself you can show up. Third, practice gratitude. Start a jar of awesome. When something good happens, no matter how small, write it down and put it in the jar. Or start a 5-minute journal. Spend just a few minutes each morning writing down what you're grateful for. This simple practice of focusing on what you have rather than what you lack is perhaps the most powerful tool of all for building a rich and meaningful life. In the end, this book isn't a prescription, it's a buffet. It's a collection of tools, and it's up to you to pick the ones that work for you, combine them in unique ways, and build your own masterpiece. As Tim writes in his conclusion, when you use these tools, you can feel the spirit of the master near you. You're not alone on this journey. The Titans are with you, and their wisdom is here to guide you. That was a summary of Tools of Titans by Timothy Ferriss. We've touched on some core ideas today, but believe me when I say we've only scratched the surface. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It gives you the lay of the land, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the paths, smelling the air, and meeting the people. The real magic of this book is in the details, the specific stories, the subtle insights, the moments when a particular Titan's voice speaks directly to a problem you're facing. This summary is your map. If you feel that pull, that sense of possibility, I encourage you to grab a copy and begin your own exploration. It's more than a book. It's a lifelong companion and a toolkit for crafting an extraordinary life. You can find a link in the description. Also, if this journey through the minds of Titans has sparked something in you, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know this work is valuable to you, and it ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.